With Donald Trump ready to wrap up his third consecutive Republican presidential nomination, it's time to start considering the influence of the presidential race on down-ballot outcomes, especially in an era where elections are highly nationalized. Now, this connection between the presidential outcome and the fate of U.S. House races across the country is not a new phenomenon, but it has become increasingly pronounced in recent elections. In 2020, for instance, just 16 districts produced split results that year. 9 Republicans won districts carried by Joe Biden for president, and 7 Democrats won districts carried by Donald Trump. That was the lowest such total since World War II, surpassing the previous low of 26 in the 2012 election. That being said, despite this persistent trend towards universal straight ballot voting, the possibility of split outcomes does still exist because split voters still exist, and their decisions are especially important in an election cycle where the battle for House majority likely hinges on just a few battleground races. In today's video, I'm going to take you through all of the different factors impacting the state of play, and then combine all of the different district-based data points to produce projected outcomes, and then provide you with a preliminary forecast for all of the battleground races one by one. Before I get started on that though, please take a second to subscribe to my channel down below. Less than 15% of my viewers are currently subscribed, and I really need your support to help me keep making videos like these in the future. Thank you very, very much. With the general election campaign starting at a historically early point this cycle, Trump's influence on down-ballot races has become a subject of GOP concern. Nikki Haley, Trump's primary challenger, has raised concerns that a Trump-led ticket could not only result in a presidential defeat, but also cascade into a broader Republican shortfall, threatening the party's control over the lower chamber. Yet that being said, it is notable that Republicans have fared relatively well in House races during his tenure on the presidential ballot. In 2016, for example, Trump lost the national popular vote by 2 points to Hillary Clinton. Yet at the same time, Republicans won the aggregate national House vote by a point. Then in 2020, Trump lost the popular vote to Joe Biden by 4.5 points, while Republicans lost the aggregate House vote by 3 points. Now, it's possible that a different Republican presidential nominee would have done even better than Trump in either or both of 2016 and 2020, and therefore provided more of a lift to Republican candidates. But it's also possible that such a replacement candidate would have done worse, too. Of course, I haven't even mentioned what the polls are saying right now, namely that Trump is polling far better in the presidential race now than he did in either 2016 or 2020. If this persists, the question may not be whether Republican House candidates can run ahead of Trump, but whether Democrats can run ahead of Biden. It may also be that some of these Biden-won 2020 districts end up voting for Trump, and if Biden is the one who loses, it'll be the Democrats who may need to produce more ticket splitting than Republicans to flip the House. The state of play, though, in 2024's House races extends well beyond the immediate concerns surrounding Trump's potential effect down ballot. The 2022 midterm elections, for example, offered a glimpse into the capacity for major national political issues having a more pronounced effect, so to speak, on more localized races. Republicans had an excellent chance to secure a comfortable House majority nationwide in 2022. The party occupying the White House, in this case Democrats, had lost seats in all but 3 midterms since 1862. Additionally, Democratic President Joe Biden suffered from extraordinarily low approval ratings throughout the cycle, and only 23% of exit poll respondents rated the nation's economic state positively on election day. For all of those reasons, a Republican wave was almost unanimously forecasted by news outlets and election pundits. However, Republicans ended up flipping less than 9 seats, a slim majority that directly led to the most contested House Speaker election in over a century. Ultimately, the turning point in that election was the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision that significantly influenced voter sentiment on the issue of abortion rights. Democrats overperformed in 5 special U.S. House elections leading up to the midterms, especially in population centers with higher rates of educational attainment, where the Democratic Party managed to persuade large numbers of high-propensity moderate Republican and independent voters to swing their way. This, along with a 19-point defeat of an anti-abortion referendum in Trump plus 15 Kansas, suggested that Dobbs had a material impact on swing voters nationwide, hardly a surprise considering most Americans are pro-choice. In the end, had national Democrats made more efficient resource decisions in more competitive districts across the country, they could have even retained their House majority. Something I was really excited to dig deeper into after those elections was Split Ticket's Congressional Voting Index, or CVI, which estimates the partisanship of a district at the congressional level relative to the nation after controlling for candidate quality and incumbent strength. Their CVI conclusions found that Democrats had a slim 218 to 217 House majority in terms of sheer partisanship. The median seat was New York's 19th district at D plus 0.6, suggesting that the nation's new congressional lines, on net, had a slight Democratic bias. This, along with the fact that Republican presidential candidates have not won the national popular vote since 2004, a troubling trend given the decline in split-ticket voting, supports the argument that the battle for House control is a toss-up at this point. House Speaker Mike Johnson currently presides over a 219-member Republican conference, meaning that Democrats only need to flip 4 seats to retake the majority. I don't think I need to explain to you further why this is a realistic goal. That brings us to the 2024 U.S. House map on your screen right here. There are 48 congressional district battlegrounds in this election, according to my own analysis, as well as a collection of data from experts in the industry like Cook Political Report, Inside Elections, Sabato's Crystal Ball, and Split Ticket. Republicans have a 200 to 187 seat advantage among districts that lean strongly towards either party. Now you may be thinking, that is an awful low number of competitive races, 48 out of 435. But to that I say, for all the uncertainty surrounding the 2024 presidential race, one thing we do know is that it is going to be close. You're not likely to see a major wave favoring either party at the top of the ticket, rendering these districts down the ballot competitive. That's not to say that none of these districts may end up being closer than we think. In fact, I actually think you're more likely than not to see a likely or solid district somewhere on this map, for one reason or another, to become closely contested on election night. But for now, there is no reason to believe that any of these 387 districts will be all that competitive. So, regarding the 48 battlegrounds, I have created a preliminary mock-up forecast on this spreadsheet here, which accounts for each of the following data points: incumbency, partisan lean via the Cook Political Report, which looks at how every congressional district voted in the past 2 presidential elections combined, and compares it to the national average, the 2022 House results, the 2020 presidential election margin in that district between Biden and Trump, the CVI, and then the demographic-based prediction for the district that essentially tells us which party the district's electorate is more likely to favor based on factors like education, race, and income. Those 6 data points make up the fundamentals column that you see here, and then I combine those results with the average race rating for the 2024 House race in the district from reputable election forecasters Cook, Inside Elections, Sabato's Crystal Ball, Elections Daily, CN Analysis, and Split Ticket. So that's the methodology. Now here are the projections. The House races projected to lean Democrat in the 2024 elections are those where the projected result, based on all of the data points we just went over, is greater than 3 points in favor of the Democratic candidate. Oregon's 6th congressional district, California's 47th, that's Katie Porter's district encompassing Orange County. She's retiring to run for the U.S. Senate in California, challenging Adam Schiff. Nevada's 3rd, New Mexico's 2nd, and Texas's 34th. Of the 48 battlegrounds, Texas's 34th is actually the one with the largest projected margin for Democrats, and by a pretty wide margin. The district backed Biden by more than 15 points in 2020, but as Republicans have made massive gains among Hispanic voters in the Rio Grande Valley, this one's become a bit more of a target, so to speak, in recent House election cycles for the GOP. Moving all the way up north, though, Minnesota's 2nd, covering the southern portion of the Twin Cities metro area, This district voted for Trump in 2016, but Biden carried it by an almost identical margin to his statewide margin of 7 points in 2020. Of all of the states that Biden may lose in 2024, Minnesota is not likely to be one of them. The state of Illinois' lone competitive district is the oddly shaped 17th. Democrats have held this seat for more than a decade. Trump won the district's old congressional lines in 2020 by 2 points, but under the new lines following the census, Biden would have won by 8 points. Indiana's 1st district is another interesting one here in the Midwest. Its demographics actually favor Republicans, but Democrats have held this seat since 1931. And incumbent Democrat Frank Mervan is running for re-election in this Biden plus 8.5 district. Ohio's 1st district leans D as well. Incumbent Democrat Greg Landsman flipped this seat in 2022, unseating longtime Republican Congressman Steve Chabot by 5.5 points, a massive overperformance in a non-Democratic friendly environment. Biden won this district by 8 points in 2020, so even as Ohio trends to the right statewide, Landsman should not run into any real problems here being reelected. The Keystone State, Pennsylvania's 17th, and New York's 18th both lean Democrat as well. Both districts backed Biden by pretty comfortable margins in 2020 and have Democrats running for re-election. There's not a single data point actually here favoring Republicans in either of these districts. Virginia's 7th also leans Democratic. Democratic incumbent Abigail Spanberger is retiring to run for governor in Virginia, where she'll likely be the heavy favorite to win this race in 2025 should she win the nomination. That does, of course, make this House seat more vulnerable for Democrats, but it was redistricted a couple points more Democratic following the 2020 census, giving them a decently sized cushion even in an open race. Finally, up in New England, Connecticut's 5th and New Hampshire's 1st congressional districts both lean Democrat. They're on the upper end of this category. Biden won Connecticut 5 by 11 in 2020, and New Hampshire won by 6 points. Neither Democratic incumbent should really be on high alert here unless we see a Republican wave. So that gives Democrats a total of 201 seats in the U.S. House now, one more than Republicans with 34 districts outstanding. There are just 4 lean Republican districts, meanwhile: Montana's 1st, Wisconsin's 3rd, Pennsylvania's 10th, and New York's 1st. All 4 have Republican incumbents running for re-election and have a positive Republican partisan lean. Notably, though, New York's 1st district's demographics do favor Democrats by a pretty substantial margin, and Biden actually won this district in 2020. Though Republicans have held it since 2015, and every forecaster has it rated leaning or likely Republican. That means that Republicans do get their lead back in the race to 218 seats, with 204 to Democrats' 201. Exactly 30 seats remain now, and I'm going to go through all of the tilt races for both parties in more rapid fire. For Democrats, California's 13th, 22nd, and 27th will all tilt towards the Democratic candidates. Those are 3 flips in races where Republican incumbents are running for re-election. Joe Biden won each of these districts by double digits in 2020, and that's the calling card for Democratic hopefuls here. And while it's likely that those GOP incumbents do outrun Trump down ballot, the data suggests that a more than 10-point overperformance is unlikely to happen. The demographic profiles of all 3 districts do favor Democrats, and both their partisan lean scores and CVI are all at least D+4. So unless Biden massively underperforms statewide in deep blue California, these are 3 of the easiest flips for Democrats on this map. Alaska's at-large congressional district tilts Democratic as well. Democratic incumbent Mary Peltola shocked the nation with her victory in 2022 via ranked choice voting, and early polls do indicate that she will be favored to repeat in 2024. The district itself obviously does lean Republican, as it encompasses the entire state of Alaska that has backed Republicans decades after decades at the presidential level, so she will probably face a little more adversity than in those midterms, where she also definitely benefited from facing Sarah Palin. But all but one forecast has it at least tilting Democrat. Colorado's 8th congressional district was closely contested in an open race in 2022, but Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo will now have the incumbency advantage in a Biden +5 district. Ohio's 9th and 13th districts also tilt Democrat. Along with the 1st district, Democratic congressional candidates massively overperformed Biden's 2020 margins here in 2022. Trump actually won the 9th district in 2020, but longtime Democratic incumbent Marcy Kaptur won re-election by 13 points in those midterms. The fact that she is running for re-election is really the only reason this district is not favored to flip Republican, as its demographics, partisan lean, and CVI all favor the GOP as well. We'll see if she can defy the odds once again in 2024. Up north, Michigan's 8th district tilts D. Democratic Congressman Dan Kildee is a historical overperformer, winning by 10 in this Biden +2 and Republican favorable demographic district in 2022. Shifting all the way over to North Carolina's 1st district, Democrats have held this black belt district for almost 150 years. Following the census, though, this district shifted from D+17 to D+3, and then it shifted even more Republican prior to the 2022 midterms after the North Carolina Supreme Court approved a new map. Democrat Don Davis won by less than 5 points, though, in 2022. Biden would have carried it by 7 in 2020. The rest of the Tilt D districts all reside in New York, and there are 3 of them, going from most to least Democratic. New York's 4th, representing Central and Southern Nassau County in Long Island, as well as the 3rd, representing the North Shore of Long Island, expanding from North Nassau County all the way inland to northeastern Queens. Most notably, this was George Santos's district, which he somehow managed to win by 7.5 points in 2022. It's a Biden +8 district where the demographic profile massively favors Democrats. So as long as the Democratic Party nominates a half-decent candidate, Biden's presence at the top of the ticket should be enough to put them over the top here. Finally, New York's 17th also tilts D. All 3 of these would actually be flips for Democrats, as this district is held by Republican incumbent Mike Lawler. He was one of many Republican overperformers in 2022 in a disastrous performance statewide for the New York Democratic Party. Dems had previously held this seat since 1982. It was Biden +10, and again, it has a favorable demographic profile that massively favors Ds. As such, Democrats have a favorable opportunity here to rectify their embarrassing losses from 2022. I just realized I also forgot Maine's 2nd district, which is the last district to tilt Democrat. Incumbent Jared Golden, a Democrat, continues to exceed expectations since being first elected in 2018. This is a Trump +6 district that Golden won by 6 points in 2022. It is very rural and very white, which does favor the GOP, but Golden's incumbency boost gives Ds a good shot even in a presidential year. So Democrats are now projected to win 214 seats to Republicans' 204. That is already a 2-seat gain here. Remember, they enter this House cycle with 212 to Republicans' 219. Let's go through the tilt Republican seats now, once again starting on the West Coast in California, where Michelle Steele's 45th district tilts her way. Much like the other Republican-held competitive districts here in the Golden State, Biden won this district in 2020, albeit by a narrower 6-point margin. Steele was reelected to a second term in 2022 by 5 points, and 4 out of these 6 forecasters have her favored. It's a very diverse, plurality Asian, Los Angeles, and Orange County-based district. On the outskirts of the LA metro area is California's 41st, which also tilts Republican. Longtime GOP incumbent Ken Calvert was reelected to the House via this district in 2022 by a 5-point margin. He had previously represented the 42nd district prior to redistricting. Trump did win this district by a point in 2020, so the GOP can feel a bit better in this district than in the 45th, with the former president likely to be at the top of the ticket again in November. Shifting over to Arizona, the 6th congressional district here tilts Republican. Incumbent Juan Ciscomani was first elected in 2022 by a 1.5-point margin. All of the data points here point towards a very close race, with an R+3 partisan lean and an R+2.6 CVI. Its demographic prediction, meanwhile, is R+1.6, though Biden did win this district in 2020 by 0.07%. That's less than 1/10 of a point. 4 out of 6 forecasters have it rated down as a toss-up, while Sabato has it leaning Republican. Inside Elections tilts it towards Democrats. Moving north to Colorado's 3rd district, this is Lauren Boebert's district. She was reelected in 2022 by the closest margin of any House race in the entire country. It was a big underperformance for her as she came 0.2% of the vote from losing in a Trump plus 8.5 district. Its CVI and partisan lean are both comfortably Republican at R plus 7 and R plus 10, yet Boebert decided to switch her candidacy in 2024 over to the other side of the state, Colorado's 4th, which is safe Republican. That, of course, leaves Colorado's 3rd open, with 2022 Democratic nominee Adam Frisch expected to be the nominee once again in 2024. Frisch does have a ton of donor support, but he will face the odds even more so in this Republican-leaning district in a presidential year. Nebraska's 2nd, meanwhile, is a bit of an opposite situation, actually, as it voted for Biden by 6.5 points in 2020, yet Republican incumbent Don Bacon was reelected to a 4th term in 2022 by 2.7%. This is the lowest projected margin of all the Tilt R states, as its CVI is actually D plus 3.1, and demographic profile is D plus 5. Iowa's 3rd also tilts towards the GOP. Trump won this district by just 0.4% in 2020, and Republican incumbent Zach Nunn flipped this seat in 2022 by just 0.7%. He will have the incumbency factor on his side this time around. Michigan's 10th district tilts Republican as well. Trump-aligned Republican incumbent John James was elected here by less than 0.5% in 2022. Trump would have won under this new district's lines in 2020 by 1%, an underperformance given the partisan lean and CVI are R plus 3 and the demographics are R plus 5. Finally, the Virginia Beach-based 2nd district in the Commonwealth rounds out the tilt Republican seats. Biden plus 2 in 2020, Republican Jen Kiggins won it by 3.4% in 2022, and she is running for re-election. So that brings Republicans up to 212 seats, 7 shy of where they are entering 2024, and 2 shy of Democrats' projected 214. 9 seats are left as toss-ups, according to this preliminary forecast: Washington's 3rd, Oregon's 5th, Arizona 1, Michigan's 7th, New York's 22nd and New York's 19th, Pennsylvania's 8th and 7th, and then finally New Jersey's 7. All 9 of these seats have a projected margin below 0.75% in either direction, and are essentially coin flips at this point. If we were to mark them down as tilting towards a party, based on that projected results, Republicans would win 5 of them: New Jersey's 7th, Pennsylvania's 8th, New York's 19th, Arizona's 1st, and then Washington's 3rd. Democrats, meanwhile, would narrowly win Oregon's 5th, Michigan's 8th, New York's 22nd, and Pennsylvania's 7th. Ladies and gentlemen, I kid you not, Democrats would retake the majority in the House, according to this forecast, by just 1 seat, with 218 to 217. And the tipping point seat here, Michigan's 8th, is projected to be D plus 0.01, the lowest possible margin, as you can see for yourself here on this spreadsheet. That's how narrow the 2024 House battleground is expected to be this year. It's quite extraordinary. Now, obviously, things will change over the coming months, and there's a very low chance that this ends up being the exact 2024 US House map. But I do believe that it's the most accurate and comprehensive data-driven prediction that I could make at this point in time. That does it though for today's video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section what you think of this map, as well as any other videos you would like to see in the future. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Also make sure to join the EPO Discord channel. The link is in the description to interact with other members of this community. Finally, be sure to check out electionpredictionsofficial.com for my latest 2024 presidential election forecast. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.